So, is I
Yeah.
I'm Dan Carlson, one third of Us Three Blokes.
Hi, I'm Dave Nesbitt, another third of Us Three Blokes. The third member of Us Three Blokes is, I think he's out playing with some kind of weird multi-tentacled thing that he calls Spot, but we'll see how it works out for him.
Yeah, I'm just drinking a Budweiser. So Howard Lovecraft and the Kingdom of Madness is the third and final installment in a series of animated movies. I don't know. Have you seen? You probably haven't seen the first two, Dave?
No, but I'm going to go back and watch them now because this was actually really entertaining.
Yeah, it is I watched the first. I think Howard Lovecraft and the Undersea Kingdom was the last movie that I ever rented from a video store on disc. So I have a little bit of nostalgia for that. But as a series, I think it really works.
I was watching it going, wow, it's, baby's first H.P. Lovecraft adventure.
Yeah.
It has that sort of like 90s cartoon feel to it with the, somewhat rendered 3D animation and
right.
But on the other hand, I'm watching it and I'm smiling because of the sheer depth of like the voice talent in it.
Yeah, all-star cast of voice actors.
Yeah, it's literally everybody from Mark Hamill and Christopher Plummer and
Doug Bradley, Pinhead from Hellraiser,
and Finn Wolfhard, who is the voice of Herbert West, Reanimator in this, for science.
Yes. Even though the actual actor who played Herbert West in Reanimator, Jeffrey Combs, is in the cast as an adult.
Right. Who's playing H.P. Lovecraft? Well, yes. A Lovecraft. Well, right. A version of Lovecraft. Well, right. Yeah. I know that John will come on here, and I know that this will automatically be Mythos approved, but
yes.
I also have to say Squishy approved because we're stepping through dimensions, and there's time travel, and there's beings that affect reality, and all. So, yeah, it's totally Squishy approved.
Okay, it's not sleazy approved, but it's a kids show. What do you want?
Yeah. If it was a kids show and it was sleazy approved, I'd be sitting here going.
I will say that it's an extremely intelligently written children's movie because there's a reference to they're throwing spells at Cthulhu, and the spell they're throwing at him causes necrotizing fasciitis.
Yes.
A real world condition that most of us would know under the name flesh-eating bacteria.
Right.
Yeah. So I all that kind of little stuff in there made me feel like, yeah, it's for kids, but it's definitely not written just for kids.
Yeah. It's definitely got a kids show feel to it, but if you're an adult and watching it, you are not going to feel like you've had your time wasted. The plot line runs really, really well. It references an awful lot of the Lovecraft mythos. You get a lot of the heavy hitters from the Lovecraft universe. Nyarlathotep turns up. Obviously, Cthulhu turns up. There's Starspawn. There's a bunch of other creatures. It really does hit all of the major upswings in all of this, which I have to admit, I walked into here with no real sense of what I was getting into, and it turned out to really reward me for it.
And the cool thing is, it is horror. There's things in here that might scare really young children, but it's a great gateway horror for parents and kids to both enjoy. It pulls punches obviously a little bit. You're not going to see anything really, upsetting, but it still doesn't. It doesn't mince words with what Cthulhu has planned.
Yeah,
he's the destroyer of worlds.
But he's also Spot.
Yes, that began in the first episode. He's actually been in the previous movies. He's been the hero of the co-hero of the show with Howard. They're friends. But he is active because of the promise he made to Howard to not harm him or others. He promised to stay away from the very area that he is coerced into going to in this movie.
The basic overall idea is that you have a young Howard Lovecraft who now has his older uncle stopping by, and there's holes popping up in reality here, there, and everywhere, and star spawn are coming through, and strange things are happening, and so they begin to realize that the use of magic and such is causing the fabric of reality to get bent in 16 different ways and twisted and all of that. So they begin a long and arduous trek to figure out how they can fix this particular problem. And that's pretty much the plot right there, because you go everywhere from a base in Antarctica to
Relay.
Yeah. There's a running gag. I want to find the bumper sticker that just says "a relay." Oh, relay. Like, oh, really? Yeah, really.
I love that Howard is portrayed in here as like someone who's seen it all. He's sort of like Bruce Campbell in Ash versus Evil Dead. He's like, I've been to Relay. I met near Lathotep. I made a pet out of Cthulhu. It's all been done.
Which, if you think about it, on the list of people that could survive mentally an encounter with these beings, a kid that age would be absolutely perfect, because he still lives in a reality where where he hasn't made his reality concrete yet.
Things are a little more malleable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the reason that the idea that beings inside of the Lovecraft universe would drive you insane is because you have kind of created a concrete reality in your mind, and when things start to break with that, you go, no, I can't handle this, and then your brain goes into shutdown mode.
I'm real interested in the squishy reality that you're interested in now. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I like, one of the things that is only implicitly mentioned when we talk about this, is the way to survive or to thrive in a squishy environment is to not resist it. Like Bill and Ted Face the Music, just this Zen attitude of just going with whatever you're presented with. And I just think Howard does that here. He's just like, yep. Okay, this is the reality. This is the reality I've been handed. So now we're going to be stepping through it. Yeah. Let's do this thing. But it kind of goes hand in hand with one of the elements of squishy reality, or anybody who's ever experienced squishy reality. And there are moments in there where I've warned everybody who's ever going to do that there's going to be a moment where you're going to try to basically pull everything back to where it should be. And you should definitely not do that, because that creates a subconscious kind of feedback loop that your brain just can't handle. I remember reading an article by someone who was treating schizophrenia, and she was schizophrenic herself. And she was aware of the fact that she had delusions, but she was talking about bringing a level of consciousness to those delusions. And by bringing the consciousness and engaging with those delusions as though they were happening, but with a little level of detachment, she was able to find her way to the other side of a lot of the issues that she was faced with. Yeah, when you sit there and you kind of integrate and work with it, because in this case, especially when you're dealing with a schizophrenic or a psychotic, perception is 9/10 of reality. The other 10th is when they walk off the cliff and fall to their death. We're not doctors. Yeah, we're not doctors. Nothing we say in this children's review should be interpreted as medical advice. Yeah, it's just something that we found interesting. But having dealt with enough people who suffer from delusions or dementia and stuff like that, you really do learn very quickly to go, all right, I'm going to roll with your reality, because trying to pull you out of this one without knowing what I'm doing is really only going to lead to a massive psychotic break. So we're not going to do that. Yeah. And that's the madness that the end of the movie ends with. I think Mark Hamill's reading the quote. It's John's favorite Lovecraft quote about things should not be. I don't exactly know the quote. Maybe you do. there's things that should not be learned or do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, and of course it won't come to me right now. The
Right.
the
Of course,
one.
John could spit it out like that, but
yeah.
Um,
I have a love affair with the mythos universe, but not so much with Lovecraft's writing. It wasn't until Robert Bloch and a few others, and also stumbling into things along the lines of Delta Green and things like that, where it got a bit more modernized and the prose wasn't nearly as purple, that I became a bit more of a fan of the Lovecraft of the mythos universe.
I love his prose. It's very flowery and things. I kind of I probably John is much deeper into Lovecraft than I am, but I was probably the person, and I may be wrong, maybe he'll correct me, but I think I was the one that introduced him to Lovecraft because I just saw this crazy fucked up movie called Reanimator, and I said, hey, look at this, and that's
which apparently was one of Lovecraft's least favorite stories, but
yes.
I think it's one that actually it's one of the few that really does actually translate well to film.
Because it's basically a gory Frankenstein story.
Oh, yeah.
But, for me, Lovecraft, until John started pointing me in these directions of things like Color Out of Space, were telling me that the thing has Lovecraft elements. I didn't know that until he said that.
Yep.
Before
the thing is the mountains at the Mouth of Madness with at the Mountains of Madness with a lot more alcohol and explosions involved, but yeah,
a lot more swearing.
Yeah, considerably more cursing.
Yes, but for me, up until that point, Lovecraft was Reanimator and From Beyond. It was Stuart Gordon just being sleazy and just let's push it as far as it can go. So John.
That was the great thing about doing horror films in the 80s is that you could pretty much just push it as far as you wanted to go. And especially, at that point, hard R was not the kiss of death to a lot of films. It was a lot easier to make money doing it. Yeah, but okay, whenever Genius came up with the idea of, hey, let's make a Howard Lovecraft children's film, my hat is off to you. At first I thought this is going to be lame, and I wound up enjoying it way more than I expected I would.
I love that it feels like a Harry Potter movie. You actually, if you were brave enough to throw $100 million at the screen and do this live action, I think it could take off.
Yeah,
maybe not. I don't know, but it has some of the elements of something that could be big.
It has a genuine feel. Like that was one of my only complaints as I was sitting down and watching it. I was like, this kind of feels like a demo reel. Like somebody is going, okay, this is the bare bones idea, and we're mapping it out in our 3D animation.
Mm-hmm.
But I was sitting there going, God, with a real budget, this could be like awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
This is the thing that I would take to, a major studio and say, look, I know everybody's been trying to sell you on a Cthulhu project, but I'm about 100% certain this could sell.
Yeah.
Because Lovecraft is notoriously difficult to bring to the screen. So
it's based on a graphic novel. So whoever made the graphic novel was the genius that decided, let's make Howard a child, an 8-year-old child, and let's have him fight evil. Like Ash in Evil Dead, but let's make Cthulhu a pet, or a sidekick,
Which I have to admit, I absolutely adored. I thought that was something that was such a great touch. Although, mind you, there was another part of me that was sitting there thinking of the South Park episode where Cartman has kind of got Cthulhu under his control.
John's about to join us.
Okay. Well, we've already done the review, John. So yeah, wait.
We've. Oh, hi, John. We've already reviewed the movie.
Oh,
I'm digging the hair. So yeah, you can go home now, man. You're good. Oh, wait.
Okay. Yeah. I'll see you guys.
No, we were talking about the movie, but we went. Oh, he did leave.
Dude, we were kidding. Let's see what happens. John. I'm thinking his internet might have.
No, he did that. He did that. He's kind of a dick. He did that on purpose.
Oh,
yes, I did.
Yeah, trust. I am aware.
Um, so I'm drinking some Budweiser, and we're talking about Howard Lovecraft, and the one guy who knows all about Howard Lovecraft is MIA. So,
Yeah.
We went
Sorry,
ahead. We went ahead and made the assumption that you would probably give this a Mythos approval.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all the heavy hitters are in this one. The only one that was missing was the King in Yellow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, you see a bit of almost every Lovecraft genre in here. So let me start out by saying that although I give this absolute Mythos approval and acknowledge this as an awesome animated adaptation of Lovecraft works, I'm reviewing it today from the viewpoint of spoof cinema. So because it can't be taken seriously as a Lovecraft
No.
work.
It feels like Lovecraft. I was telling Dan that I was like, it's baby's first Lovecraft story. I mean, there's scary shit in there, but it's not the sort of like hardcore, terrifying stuff that we've kind of all gotten ourselves used to.
I feel like I just want to add one thing, and then I'll defer to you. I feel like spoof, maybe not the right word, but maybe pastiche, because it's kind of grabbing everything and kind of throwing it all in a big pile.
Well, it's pastiche, but because it's kind of, I don't even know if it's necessarily made for the younger crowd, because it's thoroughly enjoyable by adults as well, but it is definitely spoof material, because although they are very they take Lovecraft seriously, they preserve a lot of the important elements of important in canon Lovecraft. It still is done somewhat tongue-in-cheek, but in a very respectful way. So I have no complaints. What the hell is going on? I've got this like thing here.
I can do that too.
I can't.
It just keeps getting in my face. Like I'm saying, I have no complaints. I'm not putting it down at all, but I'm going to review it from the viewpoint of somebody watching like a spoof, not parody. It's not parody of Lovecraft, because it doesn't make fun of Lovecraft or anything else. Well, does spoof necessarily mean making fun of? No.
I don't think we really need to nail it down what to call it.
Yeah.
Except to say that it's a children's movie.
I'm saying that for my own reputation, because normally I review Lovecraft stuff as a serious Lovecraftian, as a literary analyst of H.P. Lovecraft.
Are there factions of the Lovecraft fan base that would reject this series on its face?
Outright, yeah. It's the same group that, in fact, I encountered on Facebook over the past couple days, slamming Stuart Gordon's works.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, and everybody attacking the shit out of them. But reading through the comments, which there were like 400 and some of, I counted about 15% that did not like what Stuart Gordon did with Lovecraft's works. So
you don't have to like it. Maybe that I don't know.
It does have the kind of feel of something that's like more of a kids' magical adventure sort of film,
right?
And to me,
I love it for what it is.
Yeah, it exists as a way to introduce people to the Lovecraft mythos, and I think that it's actually very well done and is actually respectful to them. I mean, all the stuff is there, the concepts are there.
There's nothing in here that, and John would know more than I do, so feel free to comment on it. I don't think that there's a whole lot in the introductory children's level story we have here that contradicts the real purpose of any of the characters. Cthulhu is still the destroyer of worlds when he, becomes controlled.
So that initially when I saw the first one, and we encountered Spot the first time, I cringed, but
I got a chuckle out of Spot.
but you got a love Spot. But okay, so because I didn't know what context they were going to use him in, I cringed a bit. But but the thing is that they did it in a loving way. And after watching the whole first film and now the second and third, yes, I know. Okay, so I'm supposed to introduce somebody here. This is actually Lovecraft's cat. Come here. Well, you wanted to make an appearance. This is Lovecraft's kitty.
Hi, kitty.
I won't say his name.
Yeah, the cat that we dare not speak its name.
I'll speak it. Tell me what it is, and I'll speak it.
No, you won't.
As enough.
And
cool kitty.
Lovely
Nice.
kitty.
Nyarlathotep looked pretty cool.
Yes. I thought that was actually I thought that was a great representation of that.
It really was.
Design.
And you know what? All of their graphics design work as far as the characters are great. I mean, look at the okay, so whose pick was this? Dan's?
That was my pick, yeah.
Okay, so have you already talked the synopsis?
Dave kind of ran us through the story a little bit.
Okay.
So there's a couple things we didn't touch on. I just want to throw them out there. So Howard has seen it, done it all already. He's kind of got like I was saying, he's got kind of an Ash versus Evil Dead attitude of, I hung out with I hung out with Cthulhu. I've battled Nyarlathotep. I know it all, and
he's got some eldritch power there.
Yeah.
Yep. He bears one of the elder signs, so he can ward off evil and whatnot.
So there are the barriers between worlds have gotten so thin that demons and elder gods and various Lovecraftian creatures are coming into our world. In order to stop it from happening, Howard and his troop of scientists have to go and battle the creatures and try to reach Cthulhu's heart.
They're also battling against basically a cultist who is holed up in that ice palace thingy.
Yeah.
And
so but yeah, I mean, God, they did such a good job with all the characters. What I was going to say earlier was that I love that Lovecraft comes back in time as himself and claims that he's somebody else and kind of acts like he's going to help Howard himself out, and then kind of turns on him.
Yeah.
And oh man.
Well, Howard has to kind of face the dark side of himself in that way, because that's him as an adult, and that's his the version of him that has forgotten the love of his parents and the love of like the love that he had with Cthulhu. And it's sort of about, well, saying that out loud, but
I love
it's about the power of friendship.
It is.
It is.
And it kind of reminded me of Paranorman. I don't know if you guys ever saw that. I love that fucking movie.
I've heard of it. I've not seen it.
Okay, yeah. The actual main character, Howard, looks like Paranorman. In that movie, he has the power to see the dead, and everybody thinks he's a freak. It's sort of a Sixth Sense situation where the dead are all over the place. And, he has to learn how to communicate with them in a way to help them heal so that he can alchemize the situation. That's sort of what Howard is doing here. He has to come up against the destroyer of worlds and say, hey, remember I saved your life. I'm your buddy.
Yeah.
Chill out.
I love that. I love it. The whole story is just, you get these giddy little butterflies every time one of your favorite Lovecraft characters shows up, every time one of your favorite Lovecraft elder gods shows up. Yeah. And the treatment on each of those characters is so genuine. It's beautiful. That's why I had a hard time saying spoof, but I guess for me it's like, obviously this isn't a work.
It's a labor. It's a labor of love, but it's not.
Yeah, you can tell.
It's not a labor of Lovecraft.
Right. There you go. There you go. That's exactly right.
Is this something? I mean, is it something for the hardcore Lovecraft purists who want to lose sand every time that they encounter some variety of Lovecraft media? No. Does it give you an overview and a build-in to how the actual mythos universe works? Yes.
Yeah. And
it's a great entry-level children. You know, I keep saying children's because it's obviously geared toward. But as an adult, I was fully engaged.
Yeah. I never felt like I was having to sit there and wade my way through child speak.
Right.
You know, it was more a matter of it was something that's an adult-level story that they managed to create a context where it would work for kids. And I was like, all right, I'm good with this.
I mean, you can tell that this was absolutely made by people who really, really freaking know their Lovecraft.
Yeah.
I mean, really know their Lovecraft. For crying out loud, the father was in an insane asylum.
Yeah.
You know, all of the, just everything. They know not only the Lovecraft mythos, but they know about Lovecraft himself. And so you can tell that these are people who absolutely adore Lovecraft in every way, shape, and form.
It's almost like, and it's not in any way like this on the surface level, but it's almost like what Cronenberg was doing with Naked Lunch, where
yes.
where it was a movie about the writing of Naked Lunch, but where you would encounter all these characters who would then appear in the book. And that's kind of what the boy Howard is doing in this movie. He's encountering all the characters that would eventually, at the end of this movie, the adult Lovecraft says, maybe I'll publish a book. It's like this is sort of like the Wizard of Oz of, of what inspired Lovecraft. This is a great way for you to watch something and go, I'm kind of interested in this Lovecraft thing. I wonder if it would be for me. And you watch this movie and you go, hey, maybe I'll dig a little deeper. To me, that's what it is.
Yeah. And, you know, it kind of, to me, goes along the lines of the reason that Lovecraft wrote the stories to begin with. It's because he's writing about all of his adventures with these monsters and people as a child. So he encountered all of these people and all of that when he was a child, and then makes the decision to write about them as an adult. And so, man, this
like Winnie the Pooh.
this is really spectacular stuff. Now, I mean, I know Lovecraft fans that didn't like Lovecraft Country as well. So again, you run into those folks who say that Reanimator and From Beyond and Lovecraft Country and these things, you know, all would fit under this genre of Lovecraft that we don't speak about, because that's not really Lovecraft. And I think that any form of Lovecraft coming into existence at this time in the modern era is important, because it draws people, like Dan said, into the Lovecraft religion, basically. You know,
that's what our times need, is more cults.
Look, speaking as somebody who's an on again, off again cult leader, you can always have a little bit of competition going on between cults. It's good.
What I'm getting at is that you know, really for purists, Lovecraft is almost like a religion, and I view it that way as well. Do I actually believe that Azathoth and Cthulhu and Nyarlathotep and, you know, Yog-Sothoth are out there waiting for us to wake them? Yeah, but you know, that doesn't mean it's any less, you know, valid. So
so this children's movie wants you to join a cult.
Finglui, Migwinoth, Cthulhu, Waganava,
That's what I always say.
What he said, yeah.
I just, you know, as soon as I saw, I didn't know this movie existed. I knew the first two existed because I'd seen them. I didn't know they'd made a third one. So when it popped up in my feed, I'm like, that's what we're doing this week. Because I was telling Dave, that was the last movie I ever rented from a video store. Was one of the Howard Lovecraft series. And And it was just a very, I just remember it being a very good, there was actually beer involved. I drank a beer and watched a children's movie. And,
yeah.
And like you do. And now I've done it again, and it feels like I've come full circle. And I do want to say, if you watch the movie, stick around past the credits, because Baby Cthulhu fucking shows up.
Yes. That actually genuinely made me smile.
Yeah.
Also, and I'll come back to it again, the voice acting in here is amazing.
Mark, let's just, I'll let you get
name
back.
them off.
Mark Hamill, Doug Bradley, Christopher Plummer, Finn Wolfhard. Anybody else?
Jeffrey Combs.
Jeffrey Combs.
As H.P. Lovecraft, the grown-up.
Yes.
And I tell you what, that was like, if anyone is going to voice an adult H.P. Lovecraft in a cartoon, it has to be Jeffrey Combs, because Jeffrey Combs is like the father of all things Lovecraft as far as actors are concerned.
So am I, as someone who doesn't know a whole lot about Lovecraft, I like it. I've liked some. Am I going too far to say that if it weren't for Stuart Gordon, who a lot of Lovecraft fans don't like, we wouldn't be talking about Lovecraft as much as we are today?
Well, yeah, it's something that always drives me nuts about the diehard kind of Lovecraft cultists is that they will sit there and bash on the Stuart Gordon films, but it was the Stuart Gordon films that actually pushed him into the public eye in a way that he hadn't really ever been. Mm-hmm. I mean, if it wasn't for Reanimator, and if it wasn't for some of the other stuff that he had done, Lovecraft would have been a niche market for hardcore science fiction and horror fans. And now, I mean, like, you can go out and buy fucking Cthulhu plushies.
That thinking it was going to be the scariest creature in all of anything, and here John is cuddling with it.
I'm just kind of picturing, like, Cthulhu rises and goes, now the world will go completely mad, and like there's a bunch of us going, hey man, what's up?
We're all sitting there, jumping up and down, going, yeah.
This is not what I expected. So this movie gets 2 out of the 3 stamps of approval. It gets Dave's squishy approval. Which parts of squishy does it live up to in your estimation?
For me, bending reality and then stepping through dimensions into other realities will always be squishy. And of course, I mean, integrating magic into, the actual, quote, real world always makes things a bit squishy. So, and especially when it's, these uptight kind of Puritan-looking people from the northeast of America, and they're throwing around spells like it's nobody's fucking business.
There's spells everywhere in this movie.
Oh, I love it.
Could you imagine the religious groups getting upset about this? Because he's just constantly throwing out magic spells.
Yeah, can you imagine this coming out in the 80s?
Oh God.
When Dungeons and Dragons was pure evil, and they actually canceled the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon 1 episode before the end because of the whole evangelical movement against it. Mm-hmm. This would have been heresy. Like, somebody would have gone to jail over this.
John, we know it's Cthulhu, it's Mythos approved, but maybe on. It's got several investigators, right?
It fires on everything. Yeah, it's got the investigators, it's got the mythos creatures, the elder gods, cosmic horror, impending doom. I mean, just the fact that it's a child that is doing the a lot of the the investigation and stuff like that makes it all even better. I love it. And I definitely give it an all-out press play. And if you haven't checked out the other 2, what is it?
Frozen Kingdom, and then the Undersea Kingdom.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is totally a press play, and the fact that it's also on Amazon Prime for free, take it. Go. I mean,
it's for sure. Watch it.
All it's going to cost you is your time, and it's going to be time well spent.
And watch it with your kids if you have them. If you don't have them, you don't have to have kids to enjoy it.
Yep.